Chat. I'm George Balekji in the PNC Bank studio. She's Natalie Noury joining us virtually. Nat, how are we doing today?
Hanging in there, George. It was a long week. We started out with the Jimmy Fund, which was excellent to do, and then lots of baseball. Finally, kind of a day off for me. So joining you remotely, but everything is good. How about you?
Good. Yeah, those both back-to-back 4 a.m. wake-ups. You threw me starting out that 6 a.m. shift for Jimmy Fund. That feels like forever ago. It felt great the day. It was that next day, that wall I hit Thursday. I never want to feel that again. That 4 a.m. wake up, you feel fine day of, the coffee's kicking, all that. But the day after, my brain was just absolute slosh at that point.
And didn't you have a long drive after day two? Were you going to Long Island or something?
Oh, yeah, that was fun. Yeah. Wake up at 4 a.m., 3 hours of Jimmy Fund, 4.5-hour drive down to Long Island, dealing with traffic on the Cross Bronx Expressway. But I went to see my nephew, Luca, which was a great time. So long drive. The second I got to my sister's place, saw her pit bull, Charlie, saw my nephew, Luca. It was all worth it. Like, I did not matter. It gave me energy and all that. So I'm happy to be with you on chat at a normal hour, a normal wake up. And we got plenty to talk about. We're going to go through the full show. We'll start out with what's trending, as always. Then we'll get into the developing quarterback controversy in New England, because it was Jacoby Brissett, week one starter. Now the door is opening up. Could Drake Maye be that guy to start the season under center for the Pats? Then we'll get into Matthew Judon. He opened up about what it was like, the ongoing negotiations with the Patriots and what led to him to ultimately pick the Falcons. And then finally, we'll talk some World Series potential teams and how a lot of runs scored in a game can determine if a team wins a World Series or not. But Natalie, first, let's get into what's trending. The Celtics, they're still up for sale. We've known about that since June. But Bill Simmons shared on his podcast recently, there's legitimate buzz about Jeff Bezos purchasing the Celtics. Jeff Bezos, worth almost $200 billion. What do you think of him potentially being the next owner of the Celtics?
Well, wasn't he called like is he the richest man on the planet right now or something like that?
If he's not one, he's two. Like, that's what it has to be at this point.
He's got a lot of money,
Celtics are worth
George,
$6
so I
billion.
guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we can start there. I mean, it's a fair point. Where else would you park your money? I think, what are they asking? $6 billion for the team? Yeah.
Yep.
And then, I mean, it's a steep price, but it's something that they can get. And I think in terms of just Jeff Bezos, I think a question we should be asking too is like, what does he see from the Celtics? Why do you think he wants to buy the Celtics? Do you have an answer for that? I mean, I think it'd be great just to own a team, but why do you think he's looking at the Celtics in particular?
I think Simmons mentioned it, and that's what I've said since the jump on anyone wanting to buy the Celtics, that it's the Boston Celtics. There's the Lakers, there's the Celtics, there's the Knicks, there's the Red Sox, there's the Yankees, there's the Dodgers, there are the Cowboys, there are the Rams, the Patriots, the Giants. There are those premier franchises in pro sports. It's not the Cleveland Browns, it's not the Washington Commanders, it's not the Buffalo Sabres. It would be the Boston Bruins and New York Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, there are those big name teams. So yeah, he was outbid for the Commanders, but with a guy that has almost $200 billion to his name, he probably saw it and he goes, you know what? It's fine. but with the Celtics, I mean, that is a world brand. And Jeff Bezos, if his mindset is to go in and just be the best and build the Celtics up to be a absolute juggernaut in the NBA, great. If he looks at it as just another asset, then stay away. But I think it's the Celtics, which is a significant brand. It's also a team, there's been the whispers, could they get their own arena that they would own? Could it be by the Encore Casino out in Everett, which again, that would lead him to more money. And maybe he starts getting into casinos and sports books and gambling as well. I think because it's the Celtics and just in general, it's an NBA franchise, just like he looked at the Commanders. These are what these, crazy successful business people do. If there's an asset out there that they want to purchase and could be a good investment for them, they're going to look into it no matter what. So I think the legitimate buzz is probably him inquiring about the Celtics. What's the price? How does he make it happen? And then also he looks at his bank account, which is insane to me. And he goes, yeah, I could pay that in cash tomorrow. So it'd be an easy buy for me.
Yeah. And I mean, having a piece of the Celtics, I think, a little more valuable than the Commanders, right? I mean, they just won the finals. They have 3 players who just won a gold medal in the Olympics. They continue to give reasons as to why they're such a valuable team, not only for a fan base, but from an ownership standpoint too. And I think Bill Simmons kind of mentioned as well within this conversation that in a way it might kind of personalize Jeff Bezos if he comes in and buys this. Like you look at Mark Cuban and what happened with him in the Mavericks. Like he kind of became not only were people able to kind of put a face to a name at that point, but it personalized him too. Maybe Bezos is trying to, get a piece of the pie with owning a sports team, as we saw. He tried to, he was outbid with the Commanders. But again, I think the Celtics are a perfect place to start. And if you get $6 billion for them, then that can also help with the expansion too. I think, a couple places, Seattle, Vegas, that $6 billion can also help kind of, prompt that expansion in a way. And I think that's another topic that could come out of this too.
Oh yeah, the NBA would love this. If he purchases it for $6-7 billion, then whenever Seattle brings a franchise back, if Las Vegas, whenever they get an NBA team, that becomes $7-8 billion. It's great for the owners. It's great for the league.
Yeah.
Bezos is a guy that can go in there tomorrow and buy it. If not Bezos, I was thinking of the ownership group for Manchester City, because they own Man City, and of course they also own NYCFC. And I have a friend that's worked for NYCFC, and she's told me, like, anytime they're on the road, when they're in training camp, wherever they're playing, they get the red, what is it called? The red carpet, right? That's what gets rolled out. They're staying in the best hotels, the best resorts. They're treated like kings, but that's because of the oil money that's backing Man City. So the guy that owns them, his name is Sheikh Mansour. His individual net worth is $17 billion. So it doesn't compare to Jeff Bezos, but his family net worth, they work in like petroleum investments. I don't know, $1 trillion. Like, I assure people, there's rich, and then there's Middle Eastern oil money rich. And that is a whole different world. Like, his family's connected to the United Emirates and, Dubai and all that. So they own 81% of the City Football Group, who owns Man City, Girona FC, NYCFC. And what we see out there happening in the Middle East, it's what happened with Live Golf, where these companies, they're trying to westernize. Right. They're trying to become more normal themselves, because there is a stigma that exists out there in Saudi Arabia, but they want to become more open to tourists, more people to come and visit Dubai and all that. And they want to become Americanized in a way. What better way than getting the NBA? What better way than getting one of the best franchises in the league? And with those like oil conglomerates out there in the Middle East, they don't do anything just to do it. There's an ego attached. They want to be the best. They want to show off. They want to say they're the owner of the Celtics who are winning titles. So again, that would be an owner that would come in and just go full throttle with it and just make sure that their team is competing. Because I think the most important thing is whoever comes to the Celtics, they're going to deal with the second apron. They're going to deal with the new CBA. They're going to deal with taxes. But if they want to keep it going where they're going to put the best team out there and not just be a team that operates with zero tax dollars like you get with the Charlotte Hornets or what you even get with the New York Knicks, even though they've done a good job building it up. You want someone, you got to pay to play, and I want them to be competitive. So if Bezos comes in, I think that's great. If it's Sheikh Mansour over from the United Emirates, then I think that'd be sick too. You just want someone that comes in. And how Irv Grossbeck's operating, it could be Steve Pagliuca, but it doesn't matter. It could be other people that are local. It doesn't matter to him. He's a businessman. He's 90. It's all about their estate and setting them up for generational wealth. He'll go to the highest bidder. And if Bezos or anyone else brings it up to $7 billion, $6 billion, Irv Grossbeck's going to pull the trigger on that. Sticking with the Celtics, you see Jaylen Brown's latest workout videos he's posted on Instagram?
Yeah, yes. And this is something we've seen from him back in 2022. He was doing some Navy SEAL workout. Oh my God, it's crazy.
So Jaylen Brown, back with the underwater workouts, posted it on his Instagram. And you mentioned it. He's done it in the past. What I love is the photo, if you're watching over on Nesson's YouTube or Nesson Twitch, is the photo of him with a weight and a basketball. Because when he posted these videos, people were like, training in a pool, should be working on his handles. Maybe that's a little message to the trolls out there of, look, I got a basketball in my hands. But also, working out in the pool got him to an all-defense, one of the best players in the league, finals MVP level. I love it. Again, after getting paid, after winning a title, back in the pool, having that same approach this offseason, Natalie.
Yeah, no, I think it's funny you mentioned the trolls online. He's like, look at him working out that left hand that everyone talks so much about. But exactly. I think it's cool. And I mean, you just look at this and you're like, man, that guy, he's fired up. He's ready to go. And after not making the Team USA roster, he's had, the summer to prepare for next season. But that's our MVP right there. That's a guy who made such a difference in playoffs. And I think it's really cool to see this kind of thing. And honestly, I haven't seen too many athletes take this approach. I mean, maybe that's just me, but I kind of looked into it. I was like, is it actually harder to work out underwater? Yes, it is. But you know how you can lift things easier underwater. I was kind of looking into that, and there's more resistance in water, of course, but it's better for your body, better for your joints, I guess, less impact kind of thing. And he's even commented, since working out in the water, He feels that he's gotten faster. His athleticism has gotten better. He's stronger. So I think it's cool to see the same kind of approach again. And he's like, hey, take the picture. Also, not to mention the lung capacity. When you lift, you know how much you breathe. You lift, George. So it's like, I can't imagine trying to do that and not being able to breathe at the same time. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that for the lung capacity approach, but I completely agree. And that makes sense. It's the same thing of to get faster, you sprint with a parachute or a sled. He gets out of the pool, does these movements, all of a sudden it's easier. The less impact too. I mean, how athletic he is, he has to preserve his legs. He has to preserve his knees and his ankles as much as possible. Because we've seen other athletes like LeBron rehabbing, and there's an underwater treadmill where it's the same thing of you can run or you can walk, but it's less impact on your knees and your joints because of the water alleviating some of that pressure. I love it. Look, the guy got the largest contract in NBA history, and he was clowned. He won finals MVP, and then he was snubbed from the Olympic team. So we see him continue to be just reinvigorated to be the best player he possibly can be. And it just, whatever motivates him and will light a fire under his ass, like what happened with him being left off the Olympic roster, even after Kawhi Leonard was dropped off. Keep the work approach, the work ethic coming, because if it gets back-to-back titles for the Celtics, you know everyone in Boston is going to love it.
And they're going to start doing it too. And it's cool because Kevin Garnett even commented, like, he's like, it's great to see a dumbbell in one hand, basketball in another. He's like, it's over for everyone else. He's like, look at this guy. He's dialed. He's ready to go. It's over for the rest of you. So if someone like Kevin Garnett is saying that about this, you know, the approach has to work somehow. I mean, Jaylen has responded on the court. We've seen the way he plays. I think it's really cool. It's cool to see that he was on vacation, I think, when he took these photos too. So great to see him putting in that work in the downtime as well. But no, I think it's sick. And another thing I looked into is like, I guess a 30-minute workout underwater is equivalent to like a 2-hour workout on land as far as like calorie burning, that kind of stuff. So he's really taking his fitness to the next level. And I think it's a creative way to kind of show it at the same time.
Efficiency. I love it. I love it. All right, sticking with Celtics now into something you love, talking hockey. Everyone knows about that old photo, Jason Tatum, Matthew Tkachuk on the same school bus when they went to school together in St. Louis. They reenacted that photo, recreated it both throughout the first pitch at a St. Louis Cardinals game. And they did Tatum next to Tkachuk. They even got their classmate that's in that photo, this guy, Jacob B. That's all he said, Jacob B. in the background as well. So I loved it, seeing this photo redone. And then I was like, oh, they got the guy with the glasses in the background as well. That's awesome to see both Tatum and Tkachuk back in the loo. Them throwing out the first pitch. But this was something, I wish they reenacted it. 10 out of 10. Because they got the guy in the background. They even posed kind of the same way. I mean, absolutely perfect.
It's so funny. I've seen comments on this, and people were like, "Look at the guy in the back. He's the real winner. He's just happy to be there," kind of thing. And we don't even know his last name. It's just Jacob B right now, right?
Yeah, can you imagine being him? Like whatever he was planning to do with his Sunday, and probably like a couple weeks ago, he gets a phone call, sees whatever the area code is, and maybe it's someone from Cardinals PR, maybe it's Tatum or Tkachuk because they still have his number, but they're like, hey, what are you doing on August 18th? I don't know. You want to come to the St. Louis game? You'll be with Tatum and Tkachuk up in the suite. They're throwing out the first pitch. You're the guy from the photo. Like, hell yeah, get to hang with them for a game and go to a St. Louis Cardinals game in the suite. That has to be that made that guy's year.
I know, and kind of unfortunate for him. You really only get to see the half of his face. But again, look at that smile. He's just happy to be there. I think it's funny because these two guys, you get Jason Tatum and Matthew Tkachuk, the two arguably most dominant players in their respectable sports. You think they have enough money to rent a school bus to really recreate it the right way?
I like that idea. Or just go back to their high school and do it anyway, right? Like let them back on campus. And probably have donated enough back to do that.
Right. And I think it's kind of cool, first of all, to see both of these athletes, they both won championships in the same year for their respective sports, coming together, to know their childhood friends as well. Like we've heard stories of them in the same gym class growing up. I think what Matt Tkachuk told a story, they played basketball one day and Jason Tatum looked at him in class and was like, hey man, I'm going to the NBA someday. And Matt's like, okay. And they played hockey a week later. And I guess he said, and I'm going to quote him here. I think he said Jason Tatum, he was brutal. He was brutal at hockey. Imagine Jason Tatum trying to put on a pair of skates. I don't know about that. It'd be kind of funny, but I think he just kind of reverted himself to being a goaltender because of his wingspan at the time. But cool to hear these stories and great to see the full circle moment and capture the picture and everything.
I'm happy they both broke through and wanted to, because Panthers and Celtics, they'll be one of the final four teams in the NBA and NHL for years to come. I'm just happy in a way we can put the storyline of, did you know Tkachuk and Tatum? They've been friends since high school and they took this photo. And like, yes, I've known about it for like 3-4 years now. We get it. Let's put it to bed. But again, shout out Jacob B. Shout out that photo because it knocked it out of the park. All right, talking Patriots now. The plan all along, it seemed, this offseason was Jacoby Brissett's a starter. Bring Drake Maye along. I have been the president of the fan club of take your time with Drake Maye because it's not about this season. It's about the next 3, 5, 10 seasons for the Patriots. But it was. And Jerod Mayo said in the past, we'll go back literally July 23rd, his exact quote before they kicked off training camp when asked about who the starting quarterback is. Jerod Mayo said, yeah, coming out of the spring, I don't think there's any doubt Jacoby Brissett is the starting quarterback at this point in time. When we get out on the field this summer with the pads on, we'll see how it all plays out. Coming out of the spring, I think it's clear that Jacoby is the most pro-ready guy we have. He's played a lot of football. Then, Monday morning, talking on the Greg Hill Show, Mayo said, we came into the season even right after we drafted Drake at number 3 with the development plan. We're going to stick to the plan. It may not be a popular plan, but we're doing what we think is right for the organization, not only in the near term, but the long term. Then when asked who the starter is, he said, we still don't know now. We have another preseason game. When I know, I'll let you know. He's opened the door. And I even said when he declared Jacoby the starter, I said, no, duh. He's the best professional quarterback. He's the best NFL-level quarterback that knows how to run the system and just get this offense from point A to point B each and every week. It's not about winning a championship right now because this roster is far from that. But then we saw the flashes that Drake Maye showed against the Eagles. An absolute dime of a pass, 55 yards down the field, dropped by Javon Baker, so goes down as an incompletion. But the flick of the wrist showed out his arm talent, made his progressions, third down conversion to Javon Baker that he caught. Again, flashing of what the development plan is and how far along he's come from a draft pick at 3 overall where they had to completely recreate his footwork, all his mechanics from the waist down and kind of baby step him all the way up through the preseason to now Jerod Mayo admitting, yeah, well, Jacoby Brissett was our starter coming out of the spring. Right now, he's the most pro-ready guy to, you know what, week 1, if Drake earns it, he earns it. We haven't seen Maye fully go with the starters yet. I'm talking the full first unit of offense, offensive linemen, receivers here and there. But finally, it sounds like it's an actual competition. And now it's a matter of time of give Drake Maye the reps, get him working with the first team offense, because put your money where your mouth is. You want to talk about quality reps, you have to do that between him and Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, I think it's bound to happen that what you say, whether it's July 23rd or whatever you say at the beginning of the season or at the time, you know that things are going to change once you start playing in those game-like situations like preseason. And I think Drake Maye has shown some promise. Of course, we've seen some great plays by him, but I personally think he might need to see a little more football for us to start considering him to start in that week 1 position, just because I think it's possible that, you know, he has shown some great things already for the team, but I do think Jacoby still, you know, I have to say that I'm with you on that, George, just like the whole take your time. You've got the kid for the next couple of years. I think it's important that you don't throw him to the wolves. Give him a little bit of time to develop. He has to see a little more football. He has to kind of work with the different players and see how just that relationship goes for him. But then I don't know. I mean, it's great to see that like Jerod Mayo's kind of reconsidering what he's saying, because you can see that he can see the promise as well and the potential in Drake Maye. But I don't know. I think I'm with you on this one, George.
Yeah, Jerod Mayo even said too on the Greg Hill Show that there was a question sort of with this unit, this offensive line, or it might have been his presser. He spoke twice on Monday morning. But are you comfortable with it? Or this could have been when he spoke Saturday. Jerod Mayo said it recently, nonetheless. My fluid thinking, my fleeting thoughts. He basically said, do you have the cast to support it? And he said, Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett, the 5 guys up front, that has to be good. We're not going to throw, no matter what, rookie or a 3-year starter to the Wolves, like you just said. Because something else that jumped out was he was asked, does Drake Maye perform at a level that your plan changes or maybe even be the starter? He said 100%. We're still in training camp. We still have our preseason game at Washington. We don't have a starting quarterback right now. We'll announce that. He could absolutely be QB1. So could Jacoby. Now, Jerod isn't exactly going back on his word because he said Jacoby's a starter coming out of the spring, but he said it's a competition. But now he's addressing it more than ever. And this does show the flashes that Drake Maye has shown and displayed where He could have been asked who's a starter, and he could have been like, right now it's still Jacoby. He was a starter coming out of the spring. He's on track to be our starter week 1. Instead, he just said, it's open right now. It's a competition. It could be Drake. It could be Jacoby. And I love this side that we hear from Jerod Mayo. And also, this isn't a Jerod Mayo decision. This is a Alex Van Pelt, TC McCartney, Elliott Wolf, Scott Peters decision. Offensive coordinator, QB coach, GM, and offensive line coach. And then Jerod Mayo, of course. But none of these guys are being stubborn, and they're saying, no, I have Drake Maye on track for week 7 against the Titans on the road. That's what we're going with. They're watching and they're going, the kid can ball. And you know what? If he could run this offense, but it's all about the 5 guys up front, and it's about the offensive line. We saw Darian Lowe play more snaps than anyone against the Eagles into the third quarter. That shows they're still not suited with what they see at left tackle. We've seen Mike Onwenu go out to right tackle. That shows they're still trying to figure out that combination of the 5 up front. I don't know if they have 5 good offensive linemen. They have 3 good interior offensive linemen, but the offensive line has to protect Drake Maye, because if they are the reason he can't be confident and comfortable in the pocket, everything can fall apart. And we only have to look back a year where a bad offense or offensive line can make a quarterback digress, like it was with Mac Jones, going from a Pro Bowl alternate to basically, we got to part way with these guys because he's broken in New England.
Yeah, and Drake Maye is the type of guy that you build around because he's so young and what he's bringing to the team. And like you said, he's showing what he can do already with that 55-yard pass down to Javon Baker. And I think that was great because it kind of shows that he can handle the pressure around him. He can handle the pocket pretty well. He's got great footwork. He's kind of he's an athletic kid. You know, he can move around a little bit, and then he can deliver. Imagine if that was caught. Okay, there's already so much hype around Drake Maye, but imagine if that was actually caught. People would be pushing for him already. And I think they are, but at the same time, I think the hype, just the excitement around him, we also need to think about it logically. It's like, hey, if we're Patriots fans and we want some longevity for this team, let's not rush the process. Let's do it right. Let's continue to develop him like the plan was the whole entire time. Let's continue to see how he can do with certain players or how he's connecting with his receivers, that kind of thing, and do it right. So if we want Jacoby Brissett to start week 1, I think that's a fine approach. I think Drake Maye will come in and he will deliver when he is called because we can see he's ready. He's played enough football. You know, he's got the accolades. He's got the experience to be where he is. But we want to do this right. We don't want to rush it, and then we don't want to risk ruining it, right?
It's also in that Eagles preseason game. At that point, that was the 16th time they've been on the field, practice or games. That was the first day we saw Drake Maye outperform Jacoby Brissett. He followed up, had a strong practice Saturday, had a strong practice Sunday. Then Jacoby Brissett bounced back himself on Monday and looked like the better quarterback as well, scoring in a 1-minute drill they had held at the end of practice, as I saw reports from Andrew Callahan, who was down there with the Boston Herald. So it is just going back. And Jerod Mayo said it too on the Greg Hill show. It's about consistency. He said it at his press conference. It's about consistency. Drake Maye can show those flashes. Okay, can you do it the next play, the next drive, the next game? Because that's what it's about. And he said too, he was candid. Everything's basic in the preseason. Offenses are basic. Defenses are basic. And against the Eagles, it was the backups. When stuff really gets going, that's going to be week 1 against the Bengals. That's going to be week 2 against the Seahawks, where you have Lou Anarumo, and then you have the new head coach of the Eagles, Will McDonald, the defensive-minded guy that came over from the Ravens. That's where the tests are going to be. Then the Jets are within the first 4 weeks. Like, it's going to be a gauntlet of a schedule. They have to do it right until the offensive line's right, where he said, too, we're trying to figure out the 5 best offensive linemen individually and combination. Definitely plays a part in it. It all starts up front. That's what Jerod Mayo said as well. It's you see the flashes from Drake Maye, but there has to be the reminder, the 5 most important positions in football. Quarterback's number 1, no doubt. I think offensive tackle is 2. Then the next 3 can go in any order, but in my opinion, it's edge rusher, then it's receiver, then it's cornerback. Those are the 5 most important positions. You want that number 1, the quarterback, to work, you have to get number 2 right, and that's the offensive line, and now especially that offensive tackle. Left tackle, Darian Lowe didn't look great, getting pushed around a ton. Chuks Okorafor looked all right on the right side. They got to figure out number 1 and number 2 before they put out Drake Maye out there. I preach patience, and I'm fine with it. Alex Smith started for a year over Patrick Mahomes, but that was a playoff caliber Kansas City Chiefs team. Aaron Rodgers, of course, started for 3 years over Jordan Love before he finally got his go. And then Jordan Love looked great second half of the season. guys have sat in the past. Justin Herbert wasn't the starter coming out of the gates in his rookie season. Then Tyrod Taylor had a doctor mess up, giving him an injection, and then Justin Herbert lit the world on fire and hasn't looked back. But don't speed up these guys because it's 2024. They're a 4 or 5 win team. But in 2025, you want them to win 8 games, 9 games, maybe sneak in. 2026, that's when it'll be legit and actually be in the playoffs. You have to get Drake Maye right with the timing right now.
Yeah, definitely. And to your point about the offensive line, you have to get all those positions right because everyone has a job to do. And if everyone can do their job well, then the whole system, the whole picture, the whole product is that much better. So like I said, Drake Maye is the type of kid that you can build around. He's young. He will continue to develop and grow. I mean, he's 21. I mean, when you were 21, you were still growing, right, George? So it's like there's a lot of physical advancements that can happen for a young man at that age. His game is going to change in a better way probably over the next couple of years, but he needs the support. He needs the support and he needs to be protected and he needs to be able to do his job without, potentially getting injured or potentially making a detrimental mistake, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, we just don't want to see that kind of thing happen. I know Travis is all about getting him in there week 1. I'm sure, you know what? And if he is in there week 1, I'm going to cheer him on. I'm going to be his biggest fan because I'd be very excited to see what he can do. And you're shaking your head.
If he's in week 1, I'm calling out sick that day, maybe that whole week, because I will never hear the end of it from Travis. It's going to be a one-man show of him just yelling into the mic about Drake Maye. And I'm going to go, what's the final score? How many times has he got sacked? Even if he's starting week 1, if that offensive line is not ironclad or at least serviceable, that'll be a mistake. But yes, the talent is there. Like he is a better thrower of the football than Jacoby Brissett. But it's about who is the best NFL quarterback. Because if it was about who throws the football best, Joe Milton would be the starter for the New England Patriots right now. He has a better arm.
He looked good.
Yeah, but like the accuracy, and if you watch him at Michigan and Tennessee, you see why he was a 6th-round pick, not a 1st-round pick, let alone Drake Maye being a top 3 pick. But yeah, it's the long play. But Jerod Mayo, I mean, he continues to learn on the job, and I've said it. He had that famous quote of, we're going to burn some cash. They still have $50 million in cap space. They haven't been burning cash. He spoke about, I want the players to be the players and be themselves. Well, Matt Judon and Devon Godshaw abused that privilege, spoke openly in the media about wanting to get paid. Now Matt Judon's not here. And then he also said, well, Jacoby's a starter coming out of camp. We'll have the competition, but Jacoby's QB1 right now. And now he's looking back and he's going, well, no, we don't have a starter. These are the parts where you see where Bill Belichick, you understand how he operated the way he did, where he'll go, everyone has to earn their job. No one's a starter right now. I'm not going to name anyone. And he would say that until right before the start of the season. And you get it because Bill's like, I'm not going to make this noise I don't need. It also did mimic when it was Cam Newton and Mac as a rookie, where Cam was a starter. A few weeks later, it tilted to this is a quarterback competition. And Mac Jones was able to take hold of that, having great practices, but also was aided by Cam Newton not adhering to COVID protocol, missed a crucial week. That's when Mac was a starter and Cam got cut. And then it was a wrap there from his point in New England.
Yeah, I think people are more on their toes now, possibly than ever, under the whole Bill Belichick era, Cam Newton, Mac Jones, all of that. Now it's like we've got a clean slate per se, with Jerod Mayo at the helm. We've got Drake Maye, potential for a new team over the next couple of years. I think people are very anxious to see what's going to happen. And I know this weekend too, again, I want to see more of Drake Maye. I think this weekend in Washington is going to tell a lot. It's their first road game. They start the season on the road. I think this will be great for them. But I want to see more. I do want to see more. And I'm the type of person to take in all of my information before I make a decision. But I want to see more Drake Maye. I think he looked great. I think he shows a lot of promise, but I don't want to rush him. So I wouldn't mind seeing Jacoby Brissett start and go from there.
I like that. Taking all the info, making an informed decision. Yeah. That's a Natalie Noury approach. I mean, no, I can't hate on it. I did today. My girlfriend and I had the conversation of should we get one of those filtered shower heads, right? And there's one brand, I'm not going to give them a plug. You always see it on TikTok, right? I'm like, oh, let's order this. And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, hold on. Let me hop on YouTube. Then I went down the rabbit hole of some guy that owns a shower or bathtub company, probably out in Arizona. And he was actually like, hey, option A, you always see on TikTok. It actually sucks for what you pay. Option B, this one's a lot better. It's cheaper. You get it in Home Depot. They just don't have a genius marketing plan. He goes, this is actually high quality. So again, whether it's deciding on your filtered shower head in your bathroom or who the starting quarterback will be of New England, Natalie, you have the right approach to get informed and then make a decision. I just want to applaud you for that.
Well, Well, thank you. And it seems like you're taking the right approach with your shower head too. Did that lead to an argument between you and the girlfriend, or have you guys figured
No,
it out?
no. It was, I said, hold off, don't order. I'll look into it more tonight. She's like, all right, cool.
Okay.
So it's one of
And now
those,
we've
like
got
we've
the
been talking
information.
about doing. Yeah. Very, very amicable conversation. What wasn't amicable, ready for this segue? Matt
Ready?
Judon in his contract talks with the Patriots, from showerheads to Matt Judon going to Atlanta. He opened up in an interview now that he's down in Atlanta, and he had some key points he had with the Patriots, how he didn't like the ending of his time with New England and the negotiations. Like, we saw an animated conversation with him and Jerod Mayo on the field. He spoke to Elliot Wolf and Matt Groh as well. He said, I feel like we never sat down and came to the table as a man. He's talking about him with the team. That's the biggest point. They didn't know where I was at. I didn't know where they were at. It was always through text messages and phone calls. I feel like that was the biggest disconnect. He asked to sit down. He sent messages through his agent and asked personally, but they never sat down one-on-one. You know what? I hear this. I understand where Judon's coming from, but this is how it's going to go. If you have an agent, the front office would rather talk to the agent where you maintain the relationship, because if stuff goes sour, you're going to hear things you don't want to. If you're talking face-to-face with your employer and the person that controls your paycheck and want to negotiate it yourself, you're going to hear things you don't want to. Can you handle that? Can you handle the hard truth? The Patriots probably felt Judon can't. And again, if this guy is going to be a free agent at the end of the year, or that's someone that's well respected in this locker room and around the league, if we tell him hard truths to his face, then it can lead to other guys in this locker room saying, well, you know what? I don't like New England. So they go through the agent, and that's the job of the agent, because they understand how to take things objectively. They understand its numbers, its data, it's a budget, which they have, even though they have $50 million in cap space. I agree with the Patriots trading him. I agree with them not giving him money. He wasn't going to be here when Drake Maye is eventually the starter and they're a playoff team. For Matt Judon, I understand you want to talk one-on-one and just speak from your heart. You feel like you have a real conversation. I think the Patriots were protecting him by only going to his agent and not sitting down with him one-on-one.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, because even in our business, George, we deal with a lot of agents. We deal with a lot of those kinds of things. And from my personal experience in local news, it was always better to have your agent kind of handle those kinds of difficult situations, because you're right. There are things that you don't want to hear. There are realities and truths that you're going to not agree with and you're not going to want. And instead of making yourself look bad and possibly arguing and making, the situation worse, why not go through that agent? And I think that's what the Patriots were trying to do. And when you use the word, oh gosh, and I forgot the word already, for him to go out on the field and have those conversations with Jerod Mayo. Animated. Thank you. Here I am, a word. I can't think. I didn't think they were too animated. I mean, he said they looked like they were having a serious discussion. But again, I think just that kind of attitude, the whole thing that was going around the situation, you don't really want that around the team, especially in your first year as a coach too. Imagine how tricky and stressful that can be on top of everything else. So I think, these animated conversations, they didn't look too bad in my opinion, but I can see how, he proceeded then to say, the business side, I want to talk to them face to face, but the business side is the side that I have a problem with. And that's just the way it is. It's 2024. It's always going to be like this, if not more in the future.
Yeah, that's where it's the animated convo again. Yeah. And like Jerod Mayo commented on it, like, it was a healthy conversation. We spoke, that's it. And to be in those situations, like you mentioned, when you're in local news, it's the same thing with me. I remember being in those rooms. They're like, all right, we want to bring you back. And I was like, all right, cool. Well, what's the raise? And they're like, well, it's, 3%. And like back in the day, I don't care. I'll share my salary in local news because it was absolute like dog crap. In Joplin, I was making $24,000 a year and I had to fight for that.
Yep.
In Madison, Wisconsin, I was making 37 or 38K. And I remember it was in 2020 between protest coverage and sports coverage, I won first place in best live on news, live reporting, news live scene reporting. I won first place best sportscast and first place for best sports reporting. So I won those 3 awards, and my contract was up and I went to them. Yeah. Right. No, it was cool. It was awesome. Right. But I went to them with that and they were told, yeah, we were only approved a 3% raise, which was $1,000. And they were like, but we'll do incentive based. And I go, incentive based. I was literally the best news and sports reporter in the state of Wisconsin in my market, medium-sized market. But that's how it goes. And like, that's what it'll be in local news. It's the same thing in the NFL. It's the same thing with people if they're working in finance or accounting or working in HR at some company, right? You're going to have those hard combos. I get it. And I applaud Matt Judon for trying to have those one-on-one combos. For that to be a big gripe, I think the Patriots did right by him, and they had to look at it long form on like what the repercussions can be within their own building and across the league. We're talking with other free agents. Like if he's down in Atlanta, there are guys on Atlanta they like, or guys in Chicago. It's what it came down to. And then he goes, man, this is what the Patriots said. They suck. Then they can't go back on that. Like that's a guy that carries a lot of weight. He was a leader on the team, a leader on the field. He was their best player, in my opinion. They needed him back, but 32 years old, coming off a biceps injury. And that aside, it wasn't a leg injury. I wasn't worried. But 32 years old, coming off of that injury, they did right by him to protect him in a way on not talking to him. It was interesting. He wanted to sit down and have those messages. But you got to go through the agent at that point. And I think it says a thing too. Like Lamar Jackson negotiated his own contract himself, and it worked out for him. You wait for Jalen Hurts to come down and then went. He's also a quarterback. He has the leverage in this situation. They probably know if they sat down one-on-one with Matt Judon, he wouldn't be able to handle what they would have to say well. He probably wouldn't take it the right way. And maybe they just saw like it wouldn't be a good conversation to have. So yeah, you could ask for it, Matt. We're just not going to give it to you. Here are texts and here are phone call updates. That's all we can give you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, with the whole business side of things, you do kind of have to keep your emotions out of it. When you have to make the right decision for yourself, for the team, for the longevity of everyone's success involved, you have to think about it critically. Again, taking everything into consideration before you make those decisions. And I think for him, he did everything right. You know, he requested the in-person conversations. He asked to talk. He showed concern. He expressed himself. I think that was great. However, this is just the way that it goes. And I think ultimately it ended in the best way that it could have, because you mentioned he's 32 years old. He missed the majority of last season with 13 games or something from this injury. So they've done it without him already. They knew it was possible. And again, he was a leader with the team. He was one of the best defensive players out there as well, 2021, 22. But, this is just the way it went. And it's unfortunate because I hope it doesn't leave a sour taste in anyone's mouth, because again, you just do have to accept that it is what it is at the end of the day. But I think, it could have been messier if maybe he got involved personally. I think the way that it happened leaves everyone with a good reputation, leaves everyone in good hands. And hopefully, a lot of success for him in the future.
Yeah, and also, it also worked out best for him. He didn't get the extension. He hasn't gotten one with the Falcons, but he went from the Patriots, who are going to be a 4 or 5 win team, to the Falcons, who are going to be a division winner, upgraded at quarterback immensely, have a great play caller in Zach Robinson leading that offense now, a defensive-minded head coach. He's in such a better football situation being down in Atlanta, along with 3 other rookies they drafted along their defensive line to play up front with, and a solid defense, especially on the back end with the cornerback help he has. Like, he's in a better situation. So, yeah, they didn't want to have those talks, and it probably hurts. Like, you don't want to talk to me man to man, but that is Elliott Wolf and Jerod Mayo knowing they don't want to cross that bridge because there's no coming back. And overall, looking back on it now, this is probably the last time we talk about Matt Judon, but I love that he did open up of like, these were my demands, they weren't met. Him being in Atlanta is a great situation because no matter what it looks like right now as a recording of this episode, he's a free agent. He'll be a free agent at the end of the year. He will get paid more being a free agent coming out of Atlanta with a winning team, being a key contributor to that defense, or he gets a second contract with them. And you know what? They run it back and they're a more legit contender in their division and their conference than the Patriots will be. So even if it's play for the Falcons, prove yourself, we'll give you a 2-year extension after that. I'd rather be proving myself in the building every day with the Atlanta Falcons than with the New England Patriots. At his age, I'd rather be beating myself up, playing the sport of football. It's brutal, but for a winning team than barely making it to mid-October, hopefully with 1 or 2 wins at that point.
Yeah, it's going to ultimately make him more valuable, I think, in that situation. When you're in a situation that's going to allow you to get, a little more success in the way that you broke it down, George, he will be a little more valuable, whether that goes to someone else or whether he stays with Atlanta. I think it's a good situation for him. And again, you mentioned his age. Think about Jacoby Brissett and the situation that he's in with the Patriots. He's kind of fighting for that QB #1 role at the age that he's at. And it kind of sucks for him. Honestly, it does. Because you think about the years that you've put in, how much you've dedicated to the game. You want to be in a place that allows you the playing time, the success, and everything that you've worked so hard for. So in this particular instance, again, it is kind of a win-win situation. I think Jerod Mayo said that exact thing himself. So it all turned out okay for them. But yeah, I think, this is a tough game. Your body can only take so much for so long. And I think for him, he has to kind of take that into consideration. And he mentioned in an interview, I think, where he's just going to start, living where his feet are. And I think that's the right approach here. He left New England. He left the Patriots. Everything's fine. He's going to live where his feet are in Atlanta and do the best that he can.
It is interesting. They gave him the option between Chicago and Atlanta. He wouldn't say why he picked Atlanta.
Yeah.
But he picked the Falcons. I think that'll be better for the Pats. I think it'll be a better draft pick, that third round pick he was traded for. But again, where he would have went, Chicago or Atlanta, he would have been in a better situation than what he was with New England. All right, let's end this with some World Series talk. Found this tweet. This is credit to our producer, Brendan. I thought this was so interesting. According to Bookscape, the last 17 teams to win the World Series had at least one regular season game where they scored 15 or more runs. 13 teams this year have done so. So we have that up on your screen. And it is the Diamondbacks, Orioles, Red Sox, Rockies, Tigers, Dodgers, Brewers, Twins, Mets, Yankees, Rangers, Padres, Athletics. They've all scored 15 or more runs in a game this year. Out of those teams, who do you think actually will win the World Series that scored 15 or more runs?
First of all, George, why the heck are we scoring so many runs this year? Like has this happened before? You said no, right? This is the first time.
No. 17 straight times the World Series winner has scored this many runs.
Okay, gotcha. So the teams that have done so far this season is who we're looking at. I don't know, between
every World Series winner. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. First of all, this is really cool. And then, I mean, you look at a baseball team based on runs itself, like that's hard to predict a World Series champion. But the fact that that's a trend over the past decade or however long that graphic showed, I mean, it's pretty sweet. I would say, I don't know. I mean, you got to put, in my mind, I'm surprised the Phillies aren't part of that initial, the top half of that graphic, just because I think they're one of the most well-rounded, powerful teams right now. I think the Yankees, did you grow up a Yankees fan?
Yeah, I was. They suck. Their bullpen sucks. Their pitching sucks. Their lineup is a two-man show. So I put them out of the teams that had scored 15 or more runs, Orioles, Dodgers, they can win the World Series. I was like, who would be the third team out of that list? I'm not going Diamondbacks. I'll go Yankees, but they're not going to because they suck. But you said it, the Phillies, that jumped out to me. The Braves and the Phillies haven't scored 15 or more runs yet.
Yeah.
Watch, we're recording this podcast later tonight. They'll both break that. But those are teams I would put over the Yankees. So it's an interesting trend. Does it determine who wins a World Series? No, but it shows the power lineups that can be. But also, we've seen teams just have amazing nights and they score 20 runs in a night. So, everyone has their night as a lineup at some point, you know?
You're right, totally. And I think, I like the Orioles. You had the Dodgers, too? Okay,
Orioles
so
and Dodgers,
I had Orioles, Dodgers, and I even want to see the Phillies go far. I don't know. I mean, when you have to look at it all ways too, because you could look at the Red Sox, for example, and be like, okay, Jarren Duran, he's outstanding. You've got someone like David Hamilton stealing bags left and right every night. But our pitching kind of struggles a little bit. And we know that that's an area that we're working on. So if you don't have both parts of the equation working, I don't know how you'll be. But apparently if you're scoring all those runs, we could see you be the next World Series champion. But I think I'm with you on the Dodgers, the Orioles. I love Gunnar Henderson. I've worked with Jackson Holiday a little bit down in AAA. He's awesome. Yeah. I actually ran into him in a hotel lobby.
There you go.
Yeah. He has a dog, like a little puffball named Coco or something. Really cute. But I ran into him in a lobby, and in my mind, I'm like, I think that's Jackson Holiday. Went home, kept walking. But anyways, I would love to see the Orioles. Dodgers, I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of the Dodgers, even though they're great. I mean, I don't know. I think you could see the Phillies, Dodgers, and Orioles from my pick.
Yeah, I'd go Orioles, that lineup, and with their pitching with Burns, Suarez, Rodriguez. And then you said it. There's Gunnar Henderson, Santander. We'll see how Holiday comes along, Adley Rushman. I mean, the Orioles are just stacked. I've been on them since the jump. I could see them winning it. Overall, though, this stat is cool. It doesn't determine a World Series winner. It's just one of those dumb, cool stats of baseball. Yeah. Because you get so many of them.
Yep. No, it is cool. And I mean, it's something that I didn't know prior to this. Did you?
I was years old when I found out. Exactly. See, this is the stuff We learn on Boston has entered the chat. All right, Natalie, that brings a wrap to this. Appreciate you zooming in for this episode of the chat. She's Natalie Noury. I'm George Balekji from the PNC Bank studio. This was Boston has entered the chat. Wherever you're watching, Nesson's YouTube or Twitch, please hit the subscribe button. If you're listening, Amazon, Spotify, Amazon Prime, Spotify, Apple, like, subscribe, rate, review as well. We'll see you guys same time, same place next time. This is all for Boston has entered the chat.